like I said, we are thrilled to be able to host this clinic and to have a Montana representative here with us today. For those that haven't heard of Montana before, they are widely known as one of the best club volleyball programs in the country. They've been around since 1974, and they've won championship after championship for almost 50 years. Some of their accomplishments include 38 national championships. They've had 90 players that have been named All-American. They've had 550 players receive scholarships to play at the collegiate level. And what I've always thought is most impressive about Montana is how well they teach other people how to teach the game. The number of people that have ties to Montana that are coaching at a high level is really a testament to that. There are coaches and players that have gone on to coach at the Olympic level at schools like Stanford, Texas, UCLA, USC, all over the Big 10 and Big 12, and I just find that incredibly impressive. One of those great teachers of the game is here with us today, Mike Lingenfelter. He is, we can give him he is the co-club director of Montana. He's also the head coach of the Montana Samurai team, and he has been instrumental in their success over the years. He's won 7 national championships, and he has led the Samurai team to a top 3 finish in the nation every single year since they were created in 2004. So 19 some years, which is just crazy to me. He's really a volleyball coaching legend. He is the best motivator that I know. He's the reason why I got into coaching, and he's someone that I learn from every single time I'm around him. He was my coach. I was lucky enough to have him as a coach. I was lucky enough to have him as a mentor, and I'm even luckier to call him my friend, and I'm just so grateful that he's here today, and hope you guys learn a ton from him. So I'll turn it over to him. Thank you guys again for being here.
Can you hear me without the mic on right away? All right. Where's Ted? That's the reason. That's the reason you get into coaching. That's the whole reason. You know, her comments, out of everything she said, I let most of it wash. You know, it's just chapters in my life. But the things that I really focus in on are things like Kate's comment that the reason she got into coaching. Those are my championships. You know, the number of kids that I have coaching college now, the number of kids I have coaching high school and club, people running clubs, that's the reason I got into it. You know, the older I get, the more relationship-oriented I get. I won't lie, early on, this was about accumulating championships and wins. It was. And now it's about reflecting. And I think that out of everything she said, the only thing you need to take out of that, wash away the championships in the 50 years, and you heard it. Resonate and hold on to the reason I'm doing what I'm doing, because there'll be a day where you'll look in the mirror and that's what's going to make you proud. It will be. Things I want to hit on real quick before we get going. Any questions you have, ask. And I'll stay. I'm kind of a prisoner. I got nowhere to go for the next couple of days. So whatever you need, hit me. You know, I've learned more volleyball on a napkin and with the ketchup bottle being in the middle and the mustard being the left side. Yeah. So if you got things you want to talk about, hit me. I'll give you whatever I got. It's never been a secret. I'll give you all of the lyrics. You got to learn how to sing it though. And if it comes out sounding good, you're going to have a pretty good time. You know, if not, well, you got the lyrics. Hum it. And so things that I want to hit on, the different varieties of volleyball. It's really interesting being in the East. In the Midwest, I do a lot of inclusion speeches. I speak a ton on inclusion. And you're looking going, oh, inclusion, that's cool. In the Midwest, inclusion is, I'm a guy they bring in a lot to speak about how to morph the indoor game with the beach game. That's inclusion in the Midwest. They asked me, how do you morph the men's game and the women's game? That's kind of inclusion in the Midwest. So I guess my point would be, volleyball, it's volleyball. Coaching is coaching. Understanding that all of these games blend. They do blend. I watch a ton of men's volleyball. Obviously, I played it. You know, I watch a lot of international men's to see what's coming down the pike. In 1984, a Brazilian tossed a ball high in the air and ripped it from the service line in the men's Olympic championships. And the next thing you know, everybody's throwing the ball up and ripping it. Serving went from being a way to enter the ball into becoming an offensive weapon. Passing became defense overnight. That was the men's game. And what happens in the men's game is evolved down into the women's game on a regular basis. So I spend a lot of time in all of those different paradigms. The one thing I will tell you is you can't necessarily separate them out. You take what's best out of all of them and make it yours. And so anything that I throw out, whether you're an indoor, outdoor, men's, women's, I think they're all coaching concepts that you can and tweak. The one thing I have going for me, and I talk about it all the time, is I'm 61 years old, so I've done this for a long time. You know, I played on the beach, I played indoors, had the opportunities to do it everywhere in the world. I've coached all of those variables as well. I would never tell you I'm the most intelligent man, but by virtue of doing this for about 40 some odd years, I've developed a little bit of wisdom. And I believe that wisdom is what you want to steal. Intelligence is God-given. Wisdom is time-given. A guy interviewed me the other day and he said, what's the difference? I said, most people that are wise oftentimes are older or they've made a lot of mistakes. You know, think about experience. Experience is what we get when we didn't get what we wanted. That's true. That's true. So I've got a lot of experiences. When I look at a lot of my young coaches, they'll say, well, I'm going to do this. And I kind of go, And it's not me saying you can't do that or you're not smart enough. It's me kind of going, I screwed that up 3 times starting in 1983. And almost every decade since I made that mistake. Don't do this. And the guy asked me in the podcast, he said, what's the difference between the two? Intelligence is knowing that tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is knowing you don't put tomatoes in a fruit salad. And so I want you to kind of think in that terms today in regards to wisdom. And think about, how can I get wisdom faster? There's only one way to get wisdom faster, and it's to screw up more. The more mistakes, and I preach that with my kids every day, the more mistakes you make early on, the more you're going to learn early on. And that's how you accumulate wisdom. So whatever you're trying, that's a start. You know, getting out of bed this morning on a day where it's raining outside, dragging yourself to a clinic is a start, because somebody's going to look and say, that was a mistake getting out of bed. Good luck. I've got a series of things I'm going to hit you with. I think they all pertain to everything you do. The biggest part of this is understanding that the one thing I speak most on is culture. I speak a ton on coaching. I will speak on a regular basis about ball control, and I'll hit all of those hard. If there's things you want to see extra, you let me know. The first thing I want to talk about is something I think is really critical in coaching. I say this all the time about teams. It's not about what they do, it's about what they don't do. You heard Kate talk about some of the things that we've done. We've won the last 3 national championships. We would have won 4 in a row if it hadn't been for COVID. We were 40-0 that year. And so I know that there's some things that are important. I've had some really good players. The best player in the Big Ten right now, she had 30 kills last night against Wisconsin, is mine. And we won when we had her. I'm really good coach when I have really good players. It's kind of an interesting philosophy. The thing is, the one year she was with me, we had the freshman of the year in the Big Ten, the freshman of the year in the ACC, freshman of the year in the SEC, and those were my 3 pins. So guess what? We were really good. The next year, I lost all of those except for one. We weren't really good. We were very average, and we won the national championship again. Following year, we were even more average last year, and we won the national championship again. And it wasn't because of what we do, it's because of what we don't do. We were talking early on, Ted and I were talking, this whole thing comes down to simple things. serve and pass. At the end of the day, you can do a lot of things, and we'll talk more about this, but if you can serve it and pass it, you're in 70% of the games now. You know, and we spend a lot of time on that. And so when I say it's not about what they do, it's about what they don't do, I don't make stupid mistakes. I don't give you easy points. I don't give you an out when you need one. It's what we don't do. We're not going to do things that are going to help you. If you ever want to learn what wins, figure out what loses first. And I think that's a critical way to look at coaching. You want to know how to win, figure out what loses. What loses? Think about this. If your team can't pass gas, you're planning on where you're going to eat at. Is it Olive Garden tonight? Yeah. If you're on the road, that's how it goes. If your team can't serve, get ready to take a beating. I know what loses. I told you I wasn't intelligent, but over the years I've realized it's about what you don't do that's critical. This is what I think great coaches don't do. They don't miss opportunities to compete. So go back and look at your practice. And we got drills we put in here. You know, Kate will say, let's do this, or Scott will say, let's do this. And we put the drills in place. Most of the time as coaches, we're going through practice versus growing through practice. We will put blocks of time in that will ultimately eviscerate or evaporate a 2-hour period. That's what we do. That's what we do. And I don't want that. You know, I want every minute to count. I'm a 1440 guy. I want to get up and I want to go. If I'm up, we're going. And so practice-wise, think about what they don't do. They don't miss the opportunity to compete. Your kids don't like drills. They don't. And I don't know if I did either. But every drill was a competition for me. That's where I was a little different animal than most. And you coach some of those kids. You all coach one of those kids that won't say it, but if the person in front of them passes the ball that lands somewhere around the 10-foot line, then that person steps up and goes, watch this, whether it's inside or not, and I'm going to stick the ball on the dime. And as I run by, I'm going to tap you on the shoulder and tell you, nice pass. But as I run by, I'm going to mumble, not as good as mine. You want to compete. You want competition to be in there. So I said, they score everything. They score everything. So there's got to be a competition involved in everything you do. If you don't learn to compete, you can't grow. We just stay where we're at. And so there's got to be either you look at it and go, this drill's for 5 minutes, or this drill is for 50 passes, but there's got to be a scored element in everything you do. The guys that are really good score everything. Everything. And look at your drill plan from the last practice and kind of factor, how could I score this? It just takes a little thought. That's it. But if you want your kids to grow versus go, you probably need to understand that variable. Validate your win. So I am blessed. I coach a lot of really good players. And so one of the things that I understood from early on in life, I grew up, there were 6 boys in my family, and I was right in the middle. And so one of the things that was amazing, we would always go out and we'd play horse, if you remember the game horse. And I could always make some kind of crazy shot. I'd come under the basket and flip it up. And then my brother started going, he'd go, prove it. I said, what? You know, you had to prove your shot. And I'm going, oh, I can't do that again. I can't replicate that. That was a once-in-a-lifetime shot. You had to prove it. And so I do that with my teams now a lot of times. We score everything, but we make them validate wins. And so in club, one of the things that happens, oftentimes the 15-1s will practice with the 15-2s. The 15-1s have a huge advantage. We go a lot with our 18-2s. And our 18-2s are good, but we're going in there and we're beating the tar out of them. So the validation is we have to score. We have to serve and score. So we play an entire game for a consequence. And at the end of the game, game's over, my guy goes back, serves. If we serve and score, then we actually won. But if we serve and don't score, regardless of the outcome of the game, we lose. We lose. Because I need my kids to understand the importance of getting a point we desperately need. Instead, or I could do this, I could get in the car with my assistant coach and head somewhere to get a beer and gripe for the next 3 hours that my guys don't know how to finish. It's not taught until it's learned. You got to teach them how to finish. You can't just complain about them not finishing. You have to teach them how to do so. And that's a finishing skill. So we score it. There's pressure. These guys just blew them out in a drill, but you didn't win the drill unless you win this point. How many of you have absolutely dominated a match but not finished? Happens all the time. Happens all the time. I've been the best team and not won. And that is a miserable feeling. And you got to teach that. It's a taught skill. It's the way it works. Competitive cauldron, if you ever want a guidance, I speak all over the world, and I love listening to people speak, but I think I love listening to non-volleyball guys speak as much or more than any. Anson Dorrance is a phenomenal human being. If you're aware of who he is, Anson Dorrance is the head soccer coach at North Carolina. He's won 23 national championships. He created something called the competitive cauldron. The competitive cauldron is a means of scoring everything. Now, he doesn't use this to dictate his starting lineup, but he sure uses it to have an impact on his starting lineup, and he definitely uses it to create an absolute bonfire in his practice. And kids will ultimately look constantly at what the competitive cauldron was, where they finished. And it helps people drive themselves. And you look and you're going, well, can it work for volleyball? I don't know. Pete Carroll read Anson Dorrance's book and took it to USC. And I don't know if you remember when Pete Carroll was at USC, they were pretty good. 3 Heisman Trophy winners, 3 national champions, yeah. Pete Carroll uses it. Brad Stevens at Boston, when he was with the Celtics, used it. And so it's every sport, it translates. You need to look at that. If you really want to be good, or if you want your kids to have a really good experience. And I know competitive, we live in a world where everybody gets trophies. I get it. We live in a world where we're constantly telling these kids that it's not about winning and losing. I'm not sure we're doing anybody a service there. Explain that to the little girl or little boy that goes to a job and desperately needs money for their family and doesn't get the job. There's winning and losing. And we need to make sure we explain to people how that is done. And it's done through competitive nature. I'm not saying it's got to be barbaric, but it does have to be measured. The guys that are really good will compete on a regular basis. Bearing doubles, I put my email address at the bottom of the cover sheet. Bearing doubles is, anybody that's familiar with the beach, it was King of the Beach was what it used to be, or Queen of the Beach. And it was, we would play a match together against you two, and we'd have the outcome. Then you and I would play a match against these two, and then ultimately you and I would play a match against these two. And you start to measure. We had a little girl that, she was the Gatorade Player of the Year in Indiana. She was a Mizuno All-American. She was a Prep Volleyball All-American. She was a Volleyball Magazine All-American. Giant kid, 6'5", outside hitter, could handle the ball. We went to a Big Ten school. She was something to marvel. I really struggled coaching her. It was really maybe the worst time I'd ever had in my life. She had all of these accolades. She may have been the worst teammate I'd ever witnessed. She was the most selfish human being I'd ever faced in my life. She was this kid that was just so self-absorbed and so hung up on stats that it was amazing. Her mom one time came to me and brought out this trifold thing that was laminated and goes, "This is the toughest tournament in America right now." I said, "Yeah, it's pretty tough. I'm looking at the teams I'm playing." "Thanks, ma'am. I got a pretty good idea. The 6'6" kid over there does have my attention. Thank you." She goes, no. The number of All-Americans in this tournament, and she folds out one side of it and laminated, is all highlighted. The number of nationally ranked teams, it was on the other side of this trifold. I'm like, dear God, get a bottle of wine, woman. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. But her daughter was that girl. So we go to a camp. In this camp, there are 6 courts with 20 kids. There's 120 kids in the camp. And day 1 in the camp, I start bearing doubles. After day 1, I reshuffle them based on their finish and go to day 2. Day 2, I reshuffle, and now day 3, I've got 1 through 120. The most decorated kid in that camp. This camp included 6 Gatorade Players of the Year. My girl finished 120 out of 120 because she couldn't find a way to take the kid who was shaped like a dorm fridge and get her home in a 2-on-2 battle. She couldn't. She couldn't make anybody better. It's a great way of doing it. I think the place where I would use it as a club guy and a high school guy, we use it in our club stuff, tryouts. Because I need numbers. You need numbers. You can't look at a parent anymore and go, she's just not as good yet. And I always say, yet? She's not as good yet. Well, I don't understand. Because that's an eye test. But if I can look and go, she finished 87th out of 120 kids. That's why she's on this team. Now I've got some numbers. But if you email me, if you're interested in that, I will send you all of it. All the paperwork, how the schedule works, how you can do doubles, triples, whatever. I'll send the whole package to you. It's worth looking at. And it's competitive and it's fun. And then lastly, scoring everything. I think you have to score everything. Consequences versus punishment. It's a dangerous term. You can't even use the term. I speak in Canada all the time. You use the term punishment and Trudeau's got you out of the country. Consequences are the way to go. And my consequence, I watch all the time. I'll go to gyms and, coaches will go, yeah, you like that? And these kids running like 8 courts down, 8 courts back. Why? You're never going to pursue a ball for 8 courts. I would love it if a kid would do that. You're not going to run that far, ever. Make your consequences gamish. I'll do some defensive things for consequences. We'll do 3-meter consequences, lines consequences. I've changed the most on it. I'm not going to waste time. I just want people to know there's a difference between winning and losing. That's all I need. I don't need to punish someone. The beatings will continue until morale improves. Probably not the way to go. But I do need people to understand that winning is cool, losing not so. And I've just got to grind that in. And so I understand that part of scoring is that. So those guys never miss the opportunity to score anything. They don't hinder the learning process. And one of the things that Kate talked about, Muncie at one time, 48 coaches, 46 were active teachers in schools. Active teachers in schools. They knew how to teach. And it was about the teaching process. And so we understand, we want quantity of reps. I will tell you, and I feel pretty comfortable making a statement that regardless, I could show you everything we do, and if we came up here, we would probably still get 200, 300 more reps than you. Out of expectation, out of routine and rep, we would, but there's certain things I need you to think about how to get more quality and more quantity. It's easy to get quantity, but you sacrifice quality if you do it wrong. So we need more quality, more quantity. Good coaches do not miss the opportunity to do so. So if you look, lines are greater than stations are greater than lines. I will walk into gyms, it makes me crazy. In camps, I'll lose my mind. Got a setter, got a coach tossing to the setter, and you got a line of 18 kids right here hitting. The first kid's ready to hit, the second kid's kind of on deck, got a little vibe to them. Players 3 through 18 are talking about TikToks. That's what's happening. They're all talking about TikToks. And so you got to look and you're going, well, what do we do about that? We've only got so much space. Okay, let's have the players toss the ball in. Let's create a station there, no coach tossing it in. Coach can just evaluate and communicate. Let's have players toss. Let's have passers now in, or let's have, you just got to add stations, add paces where we reduce those lines. And I think that's critical. In line, and I just talked about this last week in Michigan. I'm watching them practice. And I asked the guy, he's one of my rivals. I said, Vince, how good are you guys? He said, well, we're not, I don't think we're as good as you this year. I said, I don't think you are. I said, what's your goal? He said, catch you. I said, you're never going to catch me. You're never going to catch me, and here's why. So I'm watching these guys. First person standing up, the first person that's in line to defend is right here. The next kid in line is standing like this. The third kid is standing like this. So it's a rapid drill. So this kid digs the ball. The second kid has to do this. And go. He said, well, what are you talking about? I said, it's simple. All of our guys will stay down the whole time. Everybody's on deck. Everybody. And so I send a message that everybody's on deck. We don't stand waiting to go, because if your kids are standing in line, the first thing you have to do when you get into the drill is to get into the drill posture, right? And so I looked and I put down simple math for you. And this is not even close, but let's say if we do the same 10 drills, we do 10 drills, same 10 drills. Your guys are standing up, walking in whenever they want. My guys are down, ready to go. I'm going to get 2 more reps per drill. If you did 10 drills, I did 10 drills. That means I got 20 more reps. 20 more reps that practice alone. If we go 4 times, you go 4 times, 80 more reps a week, 320 more reps a month, and almost 2,000 more reps in a season. So if you look and say, Mike, we're a little behind you right now, good luck if I get 2,000 more touches than you do in a season. And that's something to think about. You're going something as trivial as being down, ready to get in a drill, versus just kind of standing up, loitering. It's also about attention. One of the things you're going to spend an infinite amount of time as coaches, you know, if I'm a young coach, tape yourself. Just tape yourself and put it on the sidelines, and you could just tape 3 things. Tape, get low. Save yourself. You don't want to ruin your vocal cords, because if you're a young coach, you're going to say get low more than you're going to say anything else in your life. You know, it's true. So I just take that out of the equation. I don't want to tell you. I want you to feel my words. I need you to feel my words, or you can just say it 1,000 times. It's your call. You know, my daughter, several years ago, and I don't know if any of you have children, my daughter several years ago was a real burden in my life in regards to cleaning her room. I tried it a million different ways, but one day I struck gold. I walked up and I said, Kylie, I said, can you make sure you clean your room today? I'd really appreciate it if your room was cleaned up this afternoon. You know what, man, it would be awesome if the room was clean at some point. Cleanliness is next to Kylie. And she goes, Dad. I said, what? She said, I get it. I get it. Because I said something about cleaning a room like 9 times within about a 30-second span. And she goes, why are you doing that? I said, I figured I'm going to say it 100 times anyhow. I might as well say it all at once. And she goes, I get it, Dad. I get it. And I said, really? I said, if you get a chance to pick up a wet towel when you take a shower, I'd appreciate it. The wet towel on the floor is not. And she goes, Dad. I said, I was on a roll. I was hot. I thought I was going to push it. But that's coaching, right? Over and over and over. You got to let them feel some words. And great coaches do not miss that opportunity. Talking excessively. I should have brought them with me. I've got 3 coaches that I would trade you guys right now. You can have. For a player to be named later, I will trade these guys straight up. Because they want to explain to their kids. They feel the need to talk so much that their kids know they know what they're talking about. You don't need to do that. You know, why use a demonstration when 1,000 words will do? You know, just don't talk so much. Go. Cue on the fly. If you got something to say it on the fly. Learn to coach on the fly. You don't have to stop everything and express it. And keep this in mind. Usually when you're stopping things to move to the next, we're talking to one player. You know, one kid doesn't cover. One kid doesn't get to a cover spot. And we stop everything. Whoa! And I'm telling this, you got to be here. You got to get that outside foot, high foot on the line, belly in. And 11 kids who may have done exactly what they're supposed to do are just standing there. Why stop 11 to talk to one? Either pull that person out or coach on the fly. You know, if you ever watch practices, you will see me constantly. I worked with a group of boys the other day, and there was over and over again on defense. You saw me do this. You know, Jacob. And what that means is get your outside foot high on the line and belly into the court. Just get around it. Kids on a slide, get your hips around the ball. You know, just constantly talking. Every point's a story. Everything they do, you should be able to tell a story. There's something to be able to communicate on every single ball. If you find yourself watching, I don't know if you're doing your job. I really don't. And I think that if you want to be good at it, then these are things you really have to consider. But the great ones never do that. They don't. Volleyball. I have not met as many people that could be setters. Setting is an act. Setting a volleyball is an act. Being a setter is being able to act and think. And you got to combine a lot of different elements. So they'll always conclude with a game-like rep. So maybe we have setters out there working on setting a 4-ball. And then we're going to have a passer involved, and they'll pass and set the 4-ball. Then we'll go passer, setter, hitter. And then we'll put them 6v6, and we got to go left side versus left side. And so every ball they're passed, we know the setter's now got to get out. We're going to conclude with something game-like. You got to take it and move it. But you got to understand, it's got to ultimately always evolve into game-like settings so they can put A to B to C. You can't go A to E and expect them to get it. You're going to have to conclude that way. With that perfect segue, they don't go from drill to drill. I watch young coaches. They'll see Scott do something and go, oh, I like that repetitive hitting drill. Okay, we're going to start with repetitive hitting. And I like that passing drill Kate does. So I'm going to go repetitive hitting, and we're going to go to passing. And you did a badass defensive drill last week. I'm going to go with Scott's repetitive hitting, Kate's passing, and your badass defensive drill. And I got my first 3, and that serving drill, you killed it, brother. You killed it. I love it. I'm going to put that serving drill in there. And what you got is a really ugly jigsaw puzzle. I've got I got a hitting drill, a passing drill, a defensive drill, and a setting drill. And what you've done, congratulations, is utilize the first 25 minutes of your practice. That's it. You just killed clock. You got nowhere. You went from this skill, dramatic, you slammed it on. So it's like going rap to country music to, you with me? You know, they call those train wrecks in the radio business. There's no shift. It's a train wreck. We've all been at a dance or at a club where all of a sudden everybody's going and now, what? Come on out. How do we go from that to Barry Manilow? What are we doing here? That's what you're doing in your practices. You can't do that. And so you look at it, I layer, I'm small to big, I'm part to whole. I speak oftentimes right after guys that have a totally different mindset. One of the mindsets that I'm constantly asked to battle. The game teaches the game. If that were true, I would be a really good golfer. The game does not teach the game. You know, why does every golf course have a driving range? Why does every golf course have a putting area? Those are small set skills. Also the skills that make or break you in that game. The game does not teach the game. I think you play the game to reward. I think you play the game to assure that your teaching techniques are working. But the game does not teach the game. It's got to be small to whole. It's got to be small to whole. And so I put down for us progressive teaching. You'll see us almost every single practice. I can tell you how they are going to open right now. First 45 minutes, we'll have 3 total segments. First 45 minutes is all ball control, first contact skills. We will come out. I will read everything we're going to do, and then I'm going to play a game. And I anticipate that you're going to punch him in the mouth and vice versa. We're going to go. First 10 minutes, I'm going to let you know we're here, baby. We're going. But then we break it off, and we're going to do a passing drill. The first one's going to be kind of a partner drill. Then it'll be a toss over the net. Then it'll be a chop over the net. Then it'll be pass to set, and then pass to set to hit. And we go here, 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 here. But we start it slow so that we can focus on a finite skill. With a partner or a toss, I can make sure the skill is right. Then I speed it up with the ball coming over the net, and now we go. Then I chop and we go. And we're working the same skill set, just building layers. And you're going, well, I don't know if I coach like that. I don't know. It's kind of how you learned. You know, I would assume most of you know how to read. You didn't start with books. I believe that, just probably a month ago, I realized it wasn't elemental. But ABCs, then we go to phonics, then we go to word, and then math the same way. None of you popped out of the wombs doing calculus. You know, we have blocks. You teach volleyball the same exact way, but we don't always do that. And how good would you have been at math if we went from addition, and as you're working, you do 3 addition problems, and I go immediately to phonics. Then I go immediately to, music. And every 5 minutes, I'm changing the paradigm you're in. And we do that as coaches sometimes. We need to go in blocks and teach that way. And great coaches are never prisoners of their practice plan. No one. And I'll send you one if you want one. You look at my practice plan. My practice plan, 7 o'clock to 7:05 intro, 7:05 to 7:15 biggie small, 7:15 to 7:20 speed close, 7:20 to 7:20, and it's boom, 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 boom. But you know what? If drill number 3 is trash, I may spend a little bit of time in drill number 3. If drill number 3 is trash, and I don't think it's critical, I may get the heck out because I'd like to go home and be kind to my family. There's a lot of things, but they're not prisoners of their plan, but they are definitely planned. And that's one of the things you have to understand, that the really good ones understand what they need to work on and they move through. My biggest pet peeve, they don't major in the minors. How many of you guys are boys coaches? Anybody here a boys coach? Boys, boys. And my boys play. They were just in Chicago. My boys play. And I played. And all of our coaches were Ball State guys. They all played. But, and tell me if this is true, boys major in the exceptional, minor in the essential. I watched last week in Chicago, and I watched this kid. He's like a gazelle. And it's freaky how many big kids there are. But this kid is like a gazelle. I'm watching him. He's gliding. There was like theme music. I could almost picture Chariots of Fire as this guy's gliding. And he leaps over the fans that are on the inline. He leaps over these people and makes this unreal. His hair's flowing, and they all have crazy hair too, by the way. He pops the ball up, and I'm going, dear God, that's amazing. And then I watch him go to the wrong spot on defense 4 times in a row. They major in the exceptional. They minor in the essential. We do that as coaches too. I talk about it all the time. My coaches, we were talking about 12s. My coach, we got to be faster. We got to be a lot faster. Heidi, they're 11. They're 11. I just want them to understand how the water break works. Come on, man. Ooh, they got to be faster. How many times have you heard coaches talk, we got to be fast, we have to run a fast offense? No one runs a faster offense in the country than we do. You could go on Championship Productions, you'll see it. They came in and filmed for days our practices, and we're fast. And you know why we're really fast? Because we're really small. If we weren't really small, we wouldn't have to spend so much time focusing on elite ball control, because I could afford to pass the ball at the 10-foot line if I have a 6'6" pin. But I don't. And so I've got to be fast. That's just the hand that was dealt me. And so we look at it, you can't be fast until you can pass the ball. If you can't pass the ball, fast is you just get to dinner faster. That's it. If you try to force fast on a bad ball control team, The only thing that's speedy is how quick you get out of the gym. That's it. And so I said, Major, do ordinary extraordinarily well. Pass the ball incredibly well. So here's a stat, and this is a true fact. I was in a clinic, I was speaking with a guy named Jim McLaughlin, very gifted speaker. He's also the only man to ever win an NCAA men's national championship Division I and a women's championship Division I. Pretty gifted guy. And he's talking to a group like this. He goes, okay, you got to pass the ball. If you win the passing battle, you win 75% of the time. And everybody's jotting 75, but win the passing battle. Not as easy, but write it down. 75% of the time. He goes, if you win the passing and left side battle, you never lose. And I looked, I said, never. I said, come on, man, you can't say never. So after it was over, we got done, him and I were going to dinner. I said, God, Jimmy, can I ask you a question, brother? He goes, yeah. I said, do you feel like you were a bit strong with the never quote on pass and left side? He goes, not at all. If you knew Jim, you would understand this. He goes, no, never. Like, wow, all right, way to get terse at dinner, but that's cool. He goes, no, never. I said, I get it, Jim, never. He opens up his laptop at dinner, and he goes, you know what this is? I said, what is that? He goes, it's my file. He said, I statted 6,800 16 and up matches. In the team that won the serve pass battle, keep in mind, if you're going to stat that match, you've got to stat both teams serve and pass, and both teams attacking. And you're going, well, huddle, come on, man. 6,800 matches? And I thought, dear God. He said, and he looked, he said, never. I said, I got you. And I responded with, do you love your wife? He said, yes. I said, do you like wine? He said, yes. I said, get a bottle of wine and sit down with your wife, for God's sakes. 6,800 matches? But I started watching after that, and he's right. He's right. As much as I hate to say it, he's right. Go back and look at your matches. If you win serve pass and the left, you rarely lose, if ever. I'm not going to say never. I don't believe that. But think about that. And so you start to think about, focus on majority skills. We coach, and boys, it's always interesting. Boys want to run out. We got to do something quick. We got to run the fast middle. All right. That may happen 3 times in a match, usually off of a free ball. Just saying. But that may happen very rarely. And so focus on majority skills. Think about what happens always, okay? We're going to serve it always if we're fortunate. We're going to pass it always. We're always going to be in a defensive set, and we're always going to have to deal without a system. Those 4 things happen always. Always. And so every night I'm going to practice those 4 things a lot because they're going to happen the majority of the time. I may give you some icing, maybe a cherry here and there to work on some of these other variables, but we've got to focus on what's going to happen always more than we focus on things that happen randomly, and that's major in the minors. Don't major in what's not going to happen. And I've always said passing and serving are a lot like breathing. Hey, as long as you're doing them, you're okay. Stop breathing, not a real good scenario. Stop passing and serving, not a real good scenario. But you got to sell that. You've got to sell that this is the bread and butter. And you got to sell it by doing it every day. You got to sell it by doing it every day, scoring it every day. You got to sell it by every single day making it your most focused event as a coach. Because a lot of times you'll go into serving drills, and it makes me crazy. You'll go into serving drills, and coaches will lean against a pole, or they'll gather and start to talk. And I tell our guys, I want you coaching more in serving drills than you do in a regular drill. And I will stand back there constantly, because think about what you're going to gripe about as a coach. That's the greatest evolution in my coaching, is not showing utter disdain for service errors. Now I just grin and bear it and probably get an ulcer. But it's the hardest thing to do. But you're going to get what you teach. 3 years ago, we were getting ready for a national championship. We're a month out. My two left sides, one was the ACC Player of the Year, one was the Big Ten Player of the Year, freshman. And I stopped practice, late in practice, and I looked at him, I said, Eva. She looked at me, I said, you and Mabry. Now Mabry's looking at me. I said, you are the two worst left side blockers in North America. And they looked at me, I said, I would have gone world, but I haven't traveled enough. I would have gone universe if I could get with my boy Musk. I guarantee that there are no two worse blockers than you two in the country. And I said, you know what? That's my fault. I get paid to teach you how to block. And obviously, I've done a horrible job. So my comments aren't to upset you. My comments are to let you know I'm coming. I've got to do a better job. I've got to do a better job. And if teaching was about telling, man, it would be an easy gig. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. And so, we've got to make sure that we're constantly selling it, and we're constantly explaining why it's important, and we're constantly holding credit. We got to take credit where credit is due, whether it's positive or negative. Don't trivialize the value of relationships. This is the place where I've changed the most. Part of it is you get older and you get a little more sentimental. Part of it is you get older and you get a little bit wiser as to what this was all about. My dad was a very good coach. And my dad told me one day, he said, you have two options as a coach, Mike. I said, what's that? And it was my first college coaching gig. He said, you could be the type of coach where your kids in 10 years will cross the street to come see you. Or you could be the type of coach that in 10 years, your players will cross the street to avoid you. He said, who do you want to be? I said, I get it. I get it. And it was a very valuable, maybe the best bit of coaching advice I was ever given. It's important to get better, but it's more important to let them understand that where you're at and how much you care. The old adage, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, is so true. Is so true. Don't trivialize relationships. One way I've done that is, if you ever watch me, I'm a hi and bye guy. I want to make sure that I say hi to every single kid that's coming into my practice, whether it's physically hi or a wave or a pat on the shoulder. You'll see almost every one of those kids, I'll ask how their day's been. The difference in the game now and when I was in it, I thought everybody had a pretty good day when I was young. Now, no one has a good day. No one. Somebody got ambushed on TikTok, or, there's always some kind of drama. But in the old days, practice for me was like the icing on the cake. It was the end of a great day. Now, it may be the only good thing that happens in their life. In the old days, we depended on parents to be the catalyst for all great success. And if the parents didn't do it, we have a backup for you, baby. It's called a minister or a coach or an educator. That has really trimmed way down. It has. And you may be the only catalyst for success in your kid's world. So you probably need to say hi. Bye. I make sure I tell them all bye. I wish them a good night, but I tell them all bye, because there's nothing worse than looking at a kid going, how much money? You got to play harder than that. That's a horrible effort, man. You're better than that. And that kid leaves with crappy effort. They walk right out that door, and I was crap tonight. And you know what the equation is for that? It's really weird. It isn't I was crap tonight. It evolves into I'm crap. And you're going, no. I did a camp this summer. A little girl comes off, and I said, what's the matter, sweetie? She said, Travis hates me. Travis is the nicest guy I've ever met, and you've only been with him for 2 hours in a camp. How could he already hate you? I get it if you've been around here for 4 hours. I'll let that go. But 2 hours? And I said, what did he say? She said, he told me my out-of-system hands aren't good enough. He didn't say he hates you. He said your out-of-system hands have got to get better. And so you got to make sure you conclude the night in the proper manner. You can't let this go out the door, whether it's positive or negative, without making sure that you communicate your care. Several years ago, I was at a table with a couple of really big time, Russ Rose and Kevin Hambley, and they're all talking, and somebody said, what's he do? Why is he winning? What's he do? And I was geeked, man. I was waiting for somebody to say, well, he probably teaches passing better than anybody in the country. Or the guy's a defensive mind guru. And Russ Rose kind of stumbles through it, and he looks, he goes, he cares more than everybody else. I thought, what? It's a horrible Hallmark card. He cares more? And now I look back on it, and I'm going, what a great compliment. I care more. You got to let them know, though. They can't read your mind. High and by is critical. I don't think you can hammer kids until you connect, though. I wrote on here, connect to correct. You can't open up and just start slaying folks. You can't come down on guys until you've connected. You've got to connect with people before you can correct people. It's true. Even your own children. I mean, there's got to be a connection there. If it's a disconnect, it's brutal. And you got to have that nailed down. Teach to their heart, not to their talent. You know, I remember one time, this is a true story, and I don't know if Kate remembers it. Kate was very annoying. Kate was very annoying, and there was another little girl named Kim Kuzma, which was very annoying. But Kate and Kim would always have these battles as to who my favorite was. And I would sometimes stumble upon these two morons, and they would be talking, and they would argue, and I'd go, what are you guys arguing about? And Kate said, well, we're arguing about who your favorite is. I'm 100% sure it's me. And Kim goes, no, there's no way it can be me. So one day I got tired. I don't know if you remember this. And I looked, and cardinal sin of coaching. I looked, I said, neither of you. My favorite's Hannah Finker. And they're like, Hannah Finker? These guys were stars. Hannah was kind of this utility kid that could play almost every position on the court. And just a really nice kid, but she rarely played. Hannah Finker was my favorite player. Just because I love watching her try to get better. You know, I love these guys, but the bottom line is, you know, for her, she wasn't as talented as Kate, but it didn't matter. I taught to Kate's heart. I taught to Hannah's heart. I didn't teach to their specific talents. And sometimes we get in that habit. The best kid gets this, happens. You need to teach to their heart. Teach to the kids that truly want to be great. That would be my advice. Don't neglect culture, and Kate hit on this. Our greatest gift is our culture. In the East, you're probably not as well-versed. In the Midwest, if I said the name Don Shondell, it would resonate everybody. Everything connects to Don. He was my college coach. He passed away about a year ago. Amazing man. And he taught great culture. And we all had this crazy culture that we all existed in. And it's what's got us going all these years. 50 years Muncie has been doing it with the same culture. And you gotta figure out how important culture is. You know, what we do is more important than how we do it. You know, I always tell people that. What we do is much more important than how we do it. So you'll come in and you'll look going, how do you do this? Look, just watch. Great teams, great coaches don't have to explain to you what their offensive theory is. People will know by looking what you do. I can guarantee you call anybody and they're going to say, samurai, fast, crazy fast, well prepared, very fast, and they will battle. That's it. Not always the best, but they'll tell you that's what they do. You know, you want that. You want that to be known for you as a coach and you as a club. What do we do? Not how do we do it? We do it because we're here every day and we have the right leadership and the right mindset. How do we do it? You know, people should be able to give a quick eye test and know exactly what you're about without you having to write a biography to tell them what it is. Every drill reflects your standards of energy, communication, and competition. I will tell you this, probably my greatest skill set, and we talked about it last night, is I show up. I'll always be there. You'll always get my best. When I can't give my best anymore, I'll sit down. But every night I'm going to come in and I'm going to challenge them. Every single night, you match my intensity and we're going to be okay. You don't match my intensity, Get right. It's going to be a long practice. But I got to come every single night, and if I'm going to gripe at you on Tuesday for not being low enough, and you do the same thing on Thursday, even though I've had a long day, I got to muster up the competitive energy to battle you again. If you weren't low enough on Tuesday and you're high again on Thursday, well, I've got to start all over again. And that's really hard. It is really hard to be consistently engaged. We live in a society that is so distracted that it's almost impossible to do it. And we don't practice it enough anymore because we don't have to be consistently engaged, because we're more consistently engaged with our phones than we are with our people. That is true. That is not me being your father. That is true. And so as coaches, we got to practice consistent engagement. Every single drill deserves my best. And you're looking going, well, what if it's not? Huh? We talked about Stu Peck last night, one of my old assistants. I threw Stu out of 3 practices. You want to get a kid's attention, throw a coach out of practice. Assistant coach, I said, Stu, I love you, brother, but you're not ready to practice now. You got to get out. Kids are like, oh, shit. We got to go. But it's consistent. I want it every single night. Your best. All I want's your best. That's all I've ever wanted. And your kids, that's all they deserve is your best. And so you got to think about it. And then lastly, every day, every way. Every single day, reflect who you want to be. It's not hard. The old adage about lying. It's not hard to remember what you said if you tell the truth. So it's, for me, this is who I am. Every single day, this is who I am. I wake up the same way. I go to sleep the same way, and my kids know exactly what to expect. They know exactly how I'm going to be. I'm not for everyone. Everyone's not for me. But this is how I want to go. I want it to be done this way, and if you want to buy in, then fine. It's been a really neat scenario. But those are the things the really good ones don't miss out on. They do not miss out on those opportunities. Some of the best coaches, I got about a minute. Some of the best coaches, you look and you go, how many of you guys played? Raise your hand. All right, that's good. How many of you did not play? Yeah, our best coach in our club for a long time was this gentleman. He was a band director. He won 9 straight state championships in band. But you know what? If you can get 180 kids to march in a straight line, turn left at this point and turn right, you're going to be okay with 6. You're going to be okay with 6. And he understood organization. He understood motivation. He understood how to make people move. Anybody ever hear of Kelly Sheffield? Head coach of Wisconsin, won a national championship, got his butt beat last night though. Kelly Sheffield never played. He was a manager at Burris High School. He never played the game. He can't tell you what it feels, the exhilaration of just drilling a 2-ball. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know how it feels to get blown up by an unblocked right-sider. No, he doesn't know that at all. But what he does know is team chemistry, and he understands the game from the inside out, and he started to learn these dynamics. And both of those guys coached in our club, so I know this is how they learned it. You don't have to play the game, you just have to know how to coach. And coaching is about taking care of people. Fair?